Добрий
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to see every one of you join us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. We continue our operation today. It's day 621 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor. This night our country ended up under intense strikes by the occupiers. So now we will be talking with Yuriy Ignat, the spokesperson of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Yuriy. Good afternoon, Mr. Yuriy. So let's talk about this night's attack and the response of our air defense. Well, talking about the night, there was no such an intense activity. I think that is the weather conditions in the occupied area and in the area of the forward edge, the tactical aviation operation decreased their activity over there. There were only a couple of aircraft immersion in the equator of the Black Sea and in the occupied areas. The enemy was not exercising any attacks before this night, except for Onyx missiles launched from Crimea and X-59 ballistic missile from the area of occupied Crimea. Also, there was a counter-electronic warfare missile launched from the territory of Russia, and 22 Shahed drones, 15 of which were downed. They were launched from the territory of occupied Crimea. So those are the results of this night's attack. Well, talking about the shellings of Kherson region, now the Russians used the record number of guided aviation bombs to inflict strikes in that area. Well, you probably follow all the news. So yes, the number of guided aviation bombs launched by the enemy is growing. Fortunately, they don't use the regular aviation bombs because the air defense forces control the skies over the territory under Ukrainian control. So this is what we were talking about multiple times, that control of the air provides certain positive results in terms of battle operations. This is why the enemy resorts to using the guided aviation bombs, using which they can inflict strikes on a distance from about 50 kilometers from the forward edge of the battle area or the state border, and from the altitude of more than 10,000 meters they launch a guided aviation bomb that unfolds its wings and flies to its target. So it flies those 50 kilometers plus 20-30 above the territory of Ukraine to inflict a serious amount of damage. If it targets, very frequently they don't hit the intended target, and the enemy tries to achieve quality through quantity of those aviation bombs. We were observing the use of them in Borislav district of Kherson region, but now we see the enemy using the guided aviation bombs all along the forward edge of the battle area. Dozens of them, sometimes hundreds of them, are targeting the areas along the front lines and the positions of Ukrainian troops. So how to fight the guided aviation bombs? We can try to shut them down, but it will hardly result in anything tangible due to objective reasons. So we should suppress the activities of tactical aviation, Su-24, Su-25, and other carriers that we should counter using the air defense capabilities with a long range radius. Also, what would be efficient against them is the tactical aviation of Ukraine, something that we aspire to. I'm talking about F-16 fighter jets, the modernized F-16 jets, not of the earlier versions, but the newest line 7072, maybe even a little bit older models that can ensure good results. Mr. Yuriy, the strike on the shipbuilding wharf in Kerch, we know that caliber missile carriers were damaged, and the Russians said that they were able to down 15 missiles. So how real are those comments, those statements? Well, talking about the strike itself, Mr. Mykola Levchuk, the commander of the Air Force, in a manner inherent in him, he said that our pilots worked as if with scalpel. So probably he tipped off that they were French cruise missiles. Everybody remembers Storm Shadow, but there is a similar missile scalp. We would like to have a German Taurus model as well. So the commander summarized that there is a result: an enemy vessel was damaged, a carrier of caliber missiles. It's a new ship which was not able to make a single, go out on a single battle mission. It was only in a testing phase. Well, but it was damaged, and it's a positive result for us. But still, they have sufficient number of caliber carriers in the Black Sea Basin, so we have a lot of work to do over there. So the Russians say they downed a number of missiles, but I cannot comment about the number of the missiles that were launched or downed by the enemy. If we check the statistics of the Ministry of Defense of Russia, well, they say they shut down 20 of our aircraft per week. They shut down hundreds of ATACMS and HIMARS missiles. So let's not say that the cruise missiles cannot be downed, those manufactured in France and Great Britain. All of them can be downed using the air defense capabilities, but the Ukrainian command uses different tricks to decrease the number of those missiles that can be downed. Mr. Yuriy, talking about the operation of our air defense forces. Recently, there was a post of Vitaly Kim about formation of the mobile teams who work with the drones. It's no secret for anybody that the war of drones and the amount of drones in the skies is a colossal number. So how efficient is the operation of such mobile teams, and how does the tactics of operation of our air defense forces change in this regard? Well, Vitaly Kim has a very serious piece of work. Mykolaiv region, they're being attacked by Shahed drones very frequently, not only Shaheds, but also the Russian manufactured the reconnaissance drones. The war against drones are the realities that we've got a year ago. Like, for example, a year ago there was no even such an intensity. Like, why am I talking about the year? Because there are FPV drones coming. We have to develop the counter-electronic defense systems to fight them. The mobile fire teams are going to grow in numbers because there is no other way of protection than by numbers. We have to understand that the branch network of air defense has to defend the strategic facilities in the state. They have to protect us against the Russian aviation in Ukrainian skies. And to work in a longer range, the mobile fire teams is a step that the military command of the state had to take to protect the infrastructure facilities and other military and civil infrastructure facilities that can potentially end up under enemy strike, because the radius of application of mobile fire teams is not so long. If a drone flies like 2 kilometers from them, that they can use a machine gun or air defense cannon. So we need a large number of such teams to cover all of our territory. But Ukraine is different. This landscape is different. There are forests, there are hills and elevations. If the air defense forces don't see a UAV, they wouldn't be able to down it. This is why we look for different ways to improve their operations. We use additional equipment, high-speed vehicles that would allow those fire teams to move quickly, to take more convenient positions to target this or that UAV. They ensure better results, but again, we have to have the modern air defense capabilities, modern equipment capable of destroying UAVs in automatic mode, or even better, to have sufficient number of electronic warfare capabilities. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Do we have any questions on the floor? Well, please check your microphone. It was reported previously that the enemy launches a large number of Shaheds to study our system of air defense. And hence the question, was the number of such reconnaissance sorties increased? And if so, then in which regions? And do our military representatives draw any conclusions from that? Well, I don't know about the conclusions, but we document all such sorties. We understand why the enemy launches this or that number of UAVs in this or that area. Just check out our Telegram channel. The air defense reports on all of the targets, and those who don't react the map of the air raid alerts, they can react to our messages that the threat is there, that there are UAVs coming your way. So they can launch like 10, 15 or 20 UAVs that spread across the regions, even reaching the western borders of our state. And that the main goal is the damage of some facilities. One way or another, drones are aimed at destruction of certain facilities, but their route, having them swerve in one way or another, or flying in circles, is just made to make sure that the drone makes a reconnaissance of all the area until it hits its target, to find out the weak links, the gaps in air defense. This information is analyzed by enemy analysts to use it to plan the consequence or subsequent strike. But first of all, a drone is a weapon. It's not a reconnaissance, it's a one-way flight that is intended to hit a target. We have more questions.
Chris Sampson, National Security Media. Two questions. Do you see really that the reason why they're not hitting Kyiv like they did in October last year and into November was because the air defense is substantially better, number one? And the second is apparently General Dynamics, there's 2 MQ-9 Reaper drones available to Ukraine for merely $1 plus the logistical supplies. Is there anything we can do for Ukraine to ask for those 2 items? Because from what I understand, they're essentially available to the country. Якщо.
Well, let's start with the topic of Kyiv. Well, it is frequently said that Kiev is protected better or worse. That's a dangerous topic to discuss, because we have all of the Ukraine protected to a certain extent. Kiev, as a center of a country, as a heart of our country, is always under the strike of the enemy. Even this year, if we check out the statistics, we can see what was the number of drones and missiles that were targeting the capital and the region. All of the Kinzhals, all of the Iskander M ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones. So where enemy focuses the more of its attacks, we need to bring the best protection there. The enemy attacks the regional capitals where different facilities work. The enemy wants to damage. They don't only target the military but also the civil infrastructure. They try to hit our port facilities, grain silos, oil silos. The enemy wants to hit all of those things to break Ukrainian resistance, and this is why Kiev, where all of the government institutions are located, like government organizations, National Bank of Ukraine, this is all of a huge interest to the enemy, and this is why we understand we have to defend Kiev real good, as well as other regions, as the weapons keep coming to us, air defense weapons. And talking about the second part of your question, we've already got probably the best air defense capabilities in the world. But again, talking about everything possible, we have to segregate it by numbers. Like, for example, 2 batteries of Patriot is very good, and it allows us to shut down ballistic missiles. It allows us to down Kinzhal missiles for the first time in the global practice. But it's proven that such country as Ukraine needs more of such capabilities. We need some T in bigger numbers, and one of the modern air defense systems, Iris-T, it's available in Ukraine, but also in a limited number, just like NASAMS, that demonstrate very good results fighting the air targets. So here we're talking about numbers, so we don't only have to focus attention on those air defense capabilities, but also on the capabilities such as Paladin for ground forces, something that Great Britain can supply to Ukraine. This is something that is necessary to shut down Shahed drones. Russians started manufacturing them in Russia, and we need such capabilities that would allow us in automatic mode to destroy those targets with 100% result. It was already demonstrated by the German Gepard that downs drones very successfully. Also Shaheds, not only the missiles. So such a rational use of equipment provided by the West will allow us to down Shaheds, saving more valuable missiles to defend us against Russian aviation. Mr. Yuriy, and the last question about the air defense capabilities, we all remember the calls from our political leadership to our Western partners to lease those air defense capabilities to us. So have we proceeded to some results in these negotiations? Well, look, how do you imagine it? Like, let's take Japan. Can they lease a half of their air defense capabilities to us? This is hardly possible. I was commenting it back then when we were taking some air defense capability to reinforce this or that area. So we've taken it, we turned it back in, Well, but it didn't get some global nature. No one would lease their air defense capabilities because they're top topic in the world. We expect the manufacturing to grow, first of all, in Germany, to supply us with Iris-T, to supply us with Patriots and missiles for them. They work just wonderfully. We were able to witness it. And obviously we have to grow our NASAMS capabilities that provide 100% results. Also, we see the operation of Hawk in Ukraine, which is a modernized system which works pretty well, just like other types of weapons. We currently need to grow the number of our air defense capabilities. In fact, we have everything we were asking from the Western partners. But talking about the numbers, we need more of them because the enemy continues to inflict more and more strikes. Thank you very much for joining our broadcast. I'm reminding you, joining us was Yuriy Ignat, the spokesperson of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and I would like to thank our security and defense forces for opportunity to hold events like this, and we continue working for the sake of our victory. Glory to Ukraine.